to the program. This is Our Healthy Homes, ourhealthyhomes.com, 651-775-9194. That's the Healthy Home Hotline, 651-775-9194. We talk about the 4 pillars of a healthy home, talk about the structure, the ecosystem, what's going on inside that house. We talk about your physical body, your supplementation, your air and water, and we talk about your spiritual and emotional well-being. And if all 4 of those pillars aren't in place, the roof comes a-tumbling down.
Geez, and at today's cost of the roofs,
that's my goodness, you wouldn't want to work. Exactly.
That's a big ticket item.
Okay.
Well, we always say you're going to pay for your health now or later.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Yes.
the lovely and talented Sheila. What you got going on?
Well, we got a lot going on, and we are looking forward to some workshops.
Oh, good.
Okay, so
Real live workshops?
real
now,
live
or-
workshops.
Okay.
Yep. So people will get their Young Living Thieves,
Mhm.
products and things like that.
Sure.
And yes, there's a dilution rate on the
Right.
back. If you 3-to-1 and all that, like that is over my head, right? So, people overuse it, right? Because it's so concentrated. You say all the time, Young Living doesn't ship water.
Right.
And so the products are so concentrated that it really is less expensive, better for your health, if you just learn how to dilute, and we call those hacks. And so we're going to have an in-person workshop.
Is it a BYOB deal? Bring your own bottle?
No,
Okay.
no, of course, because I'm the container queen.
Yep.
So
But they can bring their own concentrate.
yeah,
and-
they can bring it if
okay.
they want, or they're just going to learn how to use mine.
Sure.
I don't want it to be.
You know how people are, though.
Yeah, right. But I don't want to have them remember to drag their stuff along if,
Mhm.
it's just easier to come and learn
Got
how
it.
hands-on and then go home. So we've got a workshop for that in Eagan
Mhm.
at the mansion and in St. Michael. So there's no excuses for the north side
Yeah.
to not have something
Right.
available to
I don't
you.
want to hear it.
Right. So if you just go to ourhealthyhomes.com, click on the events tab, you will see these listed.
Super.
As always, we, our team for our customers, we send out monthly samples to educate you on the over the 600 products that we have that are natural and good for you. And so we do Zoom calls to educate you on those products. And then that's also your time to come on and ask any questions, because that's when we have a really good group of educated people to help you with whatever questions you have. And if it's a health concern that we don't have any knowledge around, we know we have somebody to refer you to.
Right.
And then we do have
We have
another
doctors on staff.
doctors on staff, yes. So the gut health is a popular one, so we're bringing that back. But that one's going to be in Waconia.
Mhm.
And then you can have a private class with you and your friends and whatnot. So I'll be in Coon Rapids for that. And the other requested topic that somebody wanted to know about was lymphatic drainage.
Mm.
And
What's that mean?
well, your lymph gets stuck, and your body needs your body will
I was limping coming off the
lymphatic,
pickleball.
not limp,
Oh,
lymphatic,
lymph.
right? Yes.
Got it.
And so the gal said I can watch the videos on YouTube on how to do the dry brushing and how to do it all, but she said I'd prefer to have an in-person training, so we're going to do that as a workshop as well. And of course, your favorite in May is the craft weekend.
Oh, boy. Can't wait.
So we open up the house from Friday at 3 till Sunday at 3, and you
Didn't
come
we already
and go.
do one of those this year?
Well, we did, but it's it's a request again.
Okay.
So there you go. We add all the time to those topics, so you got to keep checking back. Ourhealthyhomes.com, the events tab.
When is that?
May.
Yeah, you don't know when in May?
Yeah, 16 to 18.
Okay, we got
Right.
the pool. I mean,
Yeah, right. Because
I lose revenue. It's a revenue loss item for me. Get a little upset about that.
Yeah, well, it is what it is.
Okay.
We are here to serve people, and Dr. Jack, I love hosting.
Okay.
So I love to host, entertain, and do whatever we can. And so we've done the soups this winter, and we did a Minnesota hot dish bake-off where people would come bring the hot dish and whatnot. So we're
A
thinking
couple of
of
bread classes. They go over well.
the bread classes are always
Yep.
a great thing. We just had one, and so Lexi, the bread lady, comes. She lives in Jordan, so she gets her organic wheat from Oregon, and she mills it, and then she makes her bread and her buns and her dog treats and her crackers and like everything she does. And we've had 2 of those classes, full house every single time. So if that's something you're interested in, reach out to me. But we've decided that she's going to take the orders, you'll pay her, all of that, and then I will be the drop site. So she's going to, once a month, bring the deliveries of whoever orders the bread from her, and then since I'm so centrally located, you can pick it up. So it's going to be once a month. And again, just reach out to me if you're interested in getting on that list. I don't have her info right here with me, but
we can put a link up on the site.
Yeah, you could. For I just call her the bread lady because that's just I just call people
by what they do.
By what they do. It's just how it is.
I'm pool boy.
Yeah, you're the pool boy. Well, you have lots of names, but. The thing that I wanted to mention today while I have time is, did you see that 28-year-old that was quite the athlete, worked out a lot, and she died from the energy drinks?
Wow.
Can you? Well, I mean, we tell people all the time.
Has that been verified? It sounds like
yes. No, it has. So.
Where did you see that?
Facebook. No. And so stop interrupting me.
Okay.
And so she was drinking 3 energy drinks a day.
That's not much.
Oh, seriously? Like
No.
the Monsters and all that?
Oh my God!
Do you know the amount of caffeine that they have in them?
Ever been in? You should have been in the restaurant during the rush when we had the restaurants going.
Oh, my heart would
those
be pounding.
guys would be pounding
Yes.
those things.
Yeah. Right, and those energy drinks. I mean, they are really, really bad for you. Okay, but let's put things into perspective.
Okay.
We know that as each generation comes up, they're weaker and weaker because of all the bad things that we're doing to our bodies and exposed, and the preservatives and all the toxins and things like that. I mean, we know in 1970 we were born with 70 chemicals from the mother's placenta, and now it's over 350. And we wonder why we are a sick society.
Right.
So it's just getting worse and worse. So their bodies can't take as much as ours because we are the stellar age and came from really good food and home cooked meals. That's what you and I grew up with, and so I wanted to bring it up because 28 years old, like that is really, really sad.
Wow.
But the article said that she needed those 3 energy drinks to keep her working out.
Well, she had something else going on.
Well, one never knows. But you don't know if you got the COVID vaccine. Like, there's so many factors to what's happening to people and myocarditis and, like, all the things, right?
Mm-hmm.
So my invitation to you listeners today is, if you are an energy drinker, if you are a pop drinker, if you are a diet pop drinker, reach out to me. And I will give you a free sample of our natural energy drink.
Actually, got 2 of them.
2 of them, yes. One has caffeine, one doesn't. Well, there's actually 3. But for Dr. Jack and the others that don't know, I was hospitalized for aspartame poisoning from the diet pop that I drank 10 years ago. So it is real. Things do happen, and they are going to happen. And I always tell people, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. It's a matter of when is your body going to say enough is enough? Are you going to pay attention to it? Are the signs is something going to happen that's so bad that, it really takes you down? And I don't want that to happen, because that's what happened to me 10 years ago. And I'm 60 and I feel better than I did in my 30s, minus the knee injury that I'm dealing with. But other than that, I mean, I feel great. And the other thing is that you can too. And it all has to be gradual. That's the other thing that people need to understand, is as we're going to go through this journey and make you feel better, you can't do it in a month. Like, the body could not handle everything that you'd have to throw at it to clean it and detox it, and all
at once.
All at once.
Oh, yeah.
But you'd die,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So
you'd have rashes in places where you
withdrawals,
didn't
like
want
the
to have rashes.
all of it would be
Yep.
horrific, right? But there are phases and stages to getting yourself to a healthier state.
Phases and stages, kind of like that.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
Very
Yeah,
good.
you can use it.
Okay, ourhealthyhomes.com. ourhealthyhomes.com. See, there's a link at the top. All these things are on there. Check out the blog site. When I remember, I post all of these radio shows on there, so that's pretty good. ourhealthyhomes.com, 651-775-9194, 651-775-9194. When we come back, we're going to be speaking with Dr.
I'm
Jack,
excited.
author of The Parents Launch Code. This is going to be an
Ooh,
exciting
this is gonna be good.
conversation. Hotel Mom and Dad at its fullest in 2 decades, and that's a bad thing, so we're going to see you when we come back. This is Our Healthy Homes, ourhealthyhomes.com, 651-775-9194. Give us a ring-a-ling-a-ling. Be happy to chat with you about your health and wellness needs and get you pointed in the right direction. We're not docs, but we know some.
Yep.
So we'll get you going. Okay, speaking of doctors, we got Dr. Jack in the studio, and we're going to be talking about some things that are really important in terms of running or living in a household in today's society. Hotel Mom and Dad. The book is entitled The Parents Launch Code.
It's titled, not in.
Is titled The Parents Launch Code: Loving and Letting Go of Our Adult Children. And we know quite a few people that I should send a copy of this book to.
Yep.
So
Or this
parentslettinggo.com is the website. Okay, so what inspired the writing of the book? Let's just start there at the beginning. What made you want to write this book?
Well, I can kind of trace it back to my own experience as a young adult with some distance and estrangement from my father.
Okay.
Good man, good provider and all, but emotionally distant, not physically affectionate, never expressed I love you or anything like that. So it led me to feel quite insecure. And I was a bit of a rebellious kid. So adding that in, kind of thought, well, this guy really doesn't love me. One time I went home, I had a little bit of a chin strap beard. This was in the 70s, early 70s.
Uh-huh.
And he wouldn't talk to me at all. We're sitting around the table. I said, Mom, would you ask Dad to pass the butter? You know. Well, as I reflected on it, my name and my history is Amish. A couple generations back, we were Amish, and I suspect he grew up and experienced being shunned by his parents.
Oh, sure.
So I don't even know if he was conscious about that. I think he was shunning me.
Uh-huh.
But in any event, that caused me to have a lot of concern about if I ever did anything really terrible, went to prison, well, then
Forget about it.
He'd disown me.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, the good news about that is that we reconciled, and I got close to my dad, and he actually died at a fairly young age, so I was really pleased to kind of work through that relationship.
Mm-hmm.
But then, fast forward, now I'm in private practice as a psychologist, and I'm seeing all these parents coming to talk to me about their kids stuck in the basement or just not making progress or kind of depressed and difficulties. And I thought, well, there must be resources out there for parents of young adults, and I couldn't really find any.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, well, okay, I have 3 young adults at the time. This is about 15 years ago. And so I decided that I'd start to specialize in that area. Started doing some workshops in the evenings, and I really didn't want to spend my evenings doing that. So I started a website, and that then led to a website and some writings and ultimately to a book. So it's a combination of experience as a young adult and experience as a parent of young adults and the demand that I saw occurring with parents struggling with how do I let go and in a caring way, and kind of try to move them forward and out of the house without, being too harsh about the process.
So were you able then to look back at your own experience as a young adult, and then how people were coming to you and asking for help and advice, and seeing this huge delta between how it was and how it is now? And somehow they're just, where's the bridge? I mean, how did that How did
Oh.
that come about?
Yeah, it's an amazing change in kind of mindset, I think, of parents and young adults today compared to when I was growing up. When I was growing up, I think I call it the children to be seen and not heard
Yeah,
generation.
sure.
And my parents, by the time I got to 18 or at least 21 and finished with college, they were done. They never assumed I'd be coming back home.
Right.
And
Well, we couldn't wait to get out.
yeah, I mean,
I
I
mean,
wasn't
we-
going to go back home.
Right. We were ready to get
Yeah.
out and wanted to get on our own. What was the trend or what started this, right?
And when?
Yeah,
can
and
you
when
identify like was there a turning point somewhere or what
in society?
what is-
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. I don't know that you could actually kind of identify a particular point in time, but I talk about moving from the children are to be seen and not heard to the children come first generation.
Oh,
I think as a boomer, my generation began the children come first way of thinking.
I think
Yes.
so.
And
I
I
would
think
agree.
there's been a growing investment in the success and happiness of the kids as opposed to we raised you, you're on your own,
yes.
figure it out.
Yes.
That was the older generation.
Yeah,
Now
that's
it's
my
like,
mentality.
oh, if you're 18 and you're unhappy, well, we got to help you. If you're 21 and you're still unhappy,
Happy.
I'm still trying
Still
to help you.
right, exactly.
We don't stop.
Right.
So
Do you think it's a matter of parents trying to live vicariously through their children? I wasn't the great football player. My kid likes football. I'm going to do everything I can to make him a great football player so I can have that experience.
I think that's some of it. I just think that I think the boomer generation. I don't know where you are in that. If you're a boomer,
I'm way younger than that.
Oh,
Yeah.
you're Gen X.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You look like a boomer
Yeah.
to me. I think we had pretty good incomes. I
Yeah.
mean, this is a generation now that they say about the millennials. The millennials are the first generation to not likely to have an income higher than their parents.
Really?
So we were the ones that had the income. So once you have that income, it's pretty easy to say, "Well, I'll buy that for you.
Sure.
Or we'll get this for you." And we have a better house than what we grew up in, and we want our kids to have more things. So that started I think the process of doing too much,
Mm-hmm.
giving too much and doing too much, and then this desire to be a really good parent. And sometimes that, what happened in the 70s and the 80s was the whole movement of women into the workforce, and now you have dual career families.
Mm-hmm.
So that plays into it because when you're both working, then you want to be sure you're giving,
Yeah. Because you feel
sometimes
guilty.
compensate
Yep.
by doing more things for your kids or giving them more things. So,
When did we lose discipline?
I think that goes along with not wanting your kids to be unhappy.
Mm-hmm.
It sure did.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that for generations back, I think parents were able to deal with a certain guilt, like, okay, I didn't do the right thing or I wasn't there, or whatever. But that's too bad. You're going to have to still get a job, or you're going to have
Right.
to do this. But now this generation, if they feel bad that they're not there for the kids or whatever, now they cave in and they give too much to kind of
Yes.
assuage that guilt, so they don't feel so bad. And if the kid's complaining, well, you're not this, okay, it's my fault because this happened in my past. And unfortunately, one of the things that has triggered that guilt has been the divorce that
I was just
occurred.
gonna bring that
Yep.
up, that with the higher divorce rates,
Yep.
you've got the parents working each other for wanting to be the better parent,
competing
or yeah,
like
right.
that. And you
Yep.
got the Disneyland dads, or whatever.
Yeah,
that kind of
right.
thing going on. So, but I think it's a kind of compensation that is going on. No matter whose fault it was that the divorce occurred, you just feel bad it happened, and your kids are probably damaged.
Yes.
may not really be that damaged.
Right, because kids are quite resilient. And
Oh,
we
yeah.
we don't give them credit. I don't think we give them enough credit for that. That they really are resilient.
Yeah.
More resilient than, we carry the emotion more about the thing than probably they do.
Oh, absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and then the more you feed into the trauma of it all,
Right.
it almost like encourages it to manifest
Yep.
itself, and instead of getting over it or becoming stronger because of it.
Oh, yeah, and I mean, kids can play on that guilt too.
Yes.
you
Yes.
they're
for
very
sure.
good at it.
Yes,
I'm
they are
really,
very good at
I'm,
I was good at it.
yeah, I'm having these problems because you went through this
Yeah,
divorce,
blaming.
and it was
Right.
so upsetting to me, and now I can't concentrate at school or whatever. There may be some truth. Sure, there's some trauma with that, but I think if we just said, oh, okay, then we just got to back off and not expect anything of you, and that trend continues, now you have kids that are developing without resilience or without, I call grit,
Yes.
and they need this grit. And I think a lot of kids these days and young adults haven't developed that kind of grit or resilience that they need to be able to step up.
Yes.
Yeah,
And I
so
want
that-
to talk about that when we come back. How we're
absolutely.
going to change that.
How are you going to change that? And
Right.
and I have some thoughts on that. This is our Healthy Homes. Got to go out and pay some bills, and then we'll be right back. Dr. Jack, parentslettinggo.com is the website. You want to check it out. We're talking about the 30-year-old living in the basement at a mom's house and failure to launch, essentially. I noticed that we talked about the 70s. We talked about the 60s and 70s. Kids were more entrepreneurial, maybe, or more independent than they are right now. Right now, we've got the gig economy. Okay, so there's a lot of people doing side gigs and stuff, but they're always connected with a big corporation. So it isn't like true entrepreneurship. You're just a 1099 because it's cheaper for the company to have you be that than to put you on a W-2 employee. So it's not really entrepreneurship. Corporations at that time, during those like maybe 3 decades, moved from being smaller regional independent companies to these
family-owned,
family-owned to these global enterprises that have a bureaucracy like a lot of governments, and they have a take care attitude. So there's pension plans, there's healthcare plans, there's daycare, there's sick days, there's all just coddling and taking care of people. And now we've got a generation that doesn't know how to take care of themselves. And so I think that maybe that coming up through that, and that's your baby boomers that grew up with that. So now it's now that's manifested itself into the family, where that same kind of attitude almost is pervasive in the family. And now we have people who are wanting to retire, and they still got their kids living with them.
Yeah.
So
not only living with them, but still supporting them for, some basic needs.
Well, here's the thing. We see it all the time when we're showing houses. And we're showing houses to people that are looking to retirement, and they're intentionally looking for a smaller house so that there's no room for their kids.
Or
they're looking for a house that they have no business buying because they want to accommodate their adult children and the kids who are working at a pop stand are coming and saying, "Oh no, no, this isn't good enough."
Right, I can't live in this.
I couldn't be living with this. No, we've got to find something more spacious with more amenities or all that
We
stuff.
can't have a 2-car garage.
So
we need
they're
a 3-car
thinking,
garage.
they're thinking about not about the parents,
right,
but themselves.
Yeah.
And they're not the ones writing the check.
Yeah.
So how do you break that cycle?
Well, let me tell you a funny story, because we tend to be pretty critical of millennials now and Gen Zs. Well, they're entitled.
Mm-hmm.
They're the trophy trophy generation.
Participation
everybody
trophy.
gets a trophy. Kind
Right,
of thing.
right.
My oldest daughter, who we had some struggles with as she was approaching college, and at one point she said she wanted to go to New York school of performing arts. She was in drama in school, and I said that's not going to happen. So, there are schools here in Minnesota, Midwest. You can go there, but I should have called her bluff and said, "Pack your suitcase. We'll go." Well, maybe not right now.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so she finally decides on a college 5 miles away.
Oh.
Goes to school there. About a month or two after she's there, she calls up and she says, "Dad, yeah, hey, what's happening?" "Well, I didn't get back to the dining room in time, and it's closed.
Oh.
Can you bring a sandwich over to me?" I said, after I picked myself off the floor from laughing, said, what planet are you on?" "Oh, I guess you're not going to bring a sandwich over."
No,
that's not going to happen.
Right.
And I'm sure you're not going to starve, and I'll bet you'll never miss dinner again.
Right.
Whatever.
Right.
So then I hung up and I thought, well, why have I done something that would lead her to think I'm going to DoorDash a sandwich over to her or something?
Right.
So when you say they're entitled, well, who entitled them?
Right.
Right.
We are the ones that entitled them,
Exactly.
set that
Yes.
kind of thing up. So it's not, you can't just blame
Right.
them.
Right. I agree.
They've gotten used to mom and dad
Yep.
doing these things for them.
Yep.
So I mean, you hear these stories of parents going with this college student to the professor to argue about the grade.
Oh, right. Even school. Yeah.
At this same school, the dean said he had a mother who would come in from out of town, lived out of town someplace, every day to change her son's sheets, pick up his laundry, and do his laundry and bring it back the next day.
Mm.
Wait, what does that teach you?
Wow.
You're going to be looking for a maid in life.
Yeah.
With
Right.
that kind of modeling that you're getting from your mother.
So how do we break that with these people? I mean, they have to. The parents, have to know that you got to let your kids go.
Yeah.
They have to experience things like this is hurting them, but they don't see it that way. So how do you get parents to see it that way?
Well, I think I like to tell the story of one of my mentors when I was at the University of Wisconsin, a guy named Frank Farrelly, kind of quite a character. He talked about in the traditional homes, where the man or husband worked outside and the mother was at home. The mother taught the kids about unconditional love, and the father taught the kids about conditional love. There's no free lunch out there.
Right.
And the kids have to get both of those messages. Nowadays, both moms and dads working, they both have to teach that message. We love you no matter what, but the world doesn't love you no matter what. You have to compete out there. You have to earn a living. There is no free lunch out there. So I think that we've got to figure out the ways to send both of those messages. That's why I say loving and letting go. You got to love them, but you got to say, you need to stand on your own too, because the world is not going to be this unconditionally loving place that you experienced at home. So.
All right, so I have a question now. So,
I got a good one
you
too.
you can start. I mean, that's good to start, but you have to start that conversation when the children are
absolutely.
young, and that's got to be their growing up conversation. What happens when mom and dad wake up one day and they go, "Holy crap! We've got two of our kids living with us that are in their late 30s. What do we do?"
Yeah.
Or even someone who's maybe their kids are just coming back from college and they just keep you can see it that they're gonna their plan is to come back home and have you pay for their food and clothing, while they do whatever they're doing with their career. How now that you spent a lifetime teaching them that this is probably the route, now how do you change direction on that?
It's very hard. I mean, it's a shock to their system to say that, things are going to change. There are going to be expectations for you living here if you want to continue to live here. And I think you have to sit down and have that discussion with them. And I like to say that parents should present that not as, if you're living here, you're going to be doing this, this, and this. But rather, if you're living here, we want to relate to you now that you're an adult as a roommate. And as a roommate, you're going to participate in supporting the household.
Right.
That means you're going to have a job and you're going to pay rent. You're going to cook meals at night. You're going to clean your room and help with chores around the house, because that's what you would do as a roommate.
Mm-hmm.
And as they are challenged to step up in that way, it makes it an easier transition to move out then too. At one point they say, well, if I'm paying rent and doing all this, I might as well be living on my own, particularly if I don't like the fact that you're telling me I need to, stop playing video games at night or whatever. I want to do that. Well, if you're staying in this house, we have certain rules and expectations, and you can always find a different place to live.
So do you help parents with lack of a better term, getting the balls to set it up and to do it? Like, do you help parents with that?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
Sure.
because a perfect example. I came into Keith's 5 stepkids, so I have 5 stepkids.
Uh-huh.
Okay, at 30 came into a house full.
Yeah.
She wanted to get them out. They were 6 years old.
Shush, you're not funny. I did not. So one went off to college, and she wasn't the tidiest. So she was
That's putting it mildly.
So
All right.
So she was gonna come back after college. I said, "Oh no. She needs to pay rent just so I can get a cleaning lady, because I'm not cleaning up after this anymore, right? I did it, and tried to instill all the things, right?
Sure.
Right? I did my best. And so she came back and we said, it's $200. It's $200 a month. She's like, well, I'm not going to pay rent. I'm going somewhere else. And we're like,
Super.
super duper. She found it. I mean, it wasn't in the best location,
Yep.
but she did it, and she did it on her own.
She probably paid more than $200
Sure she
a month, though.
Yeah,
too.
but so parents can reach out to you if they're struggling on how to have these conversations with these kids and having to come up with the plan to make it happen.
All right,
Sure.
we got to go.
Sure.
We'll be right back. What do we got? One segment left? My God. Hey, welcome back. Thanks for sticking around. Final segment of the big program. Dr. Jackson in the studio. I got a question for you.
No, I was supposed to have my question.
Write it down so you don't forget it.
I know.
Okay,
it
so
Now don't fight over it.
think about this. Think about this. How long did we go with, and still around the world, very common, multi-generational homes? Same thing, but it's different somehow. With a multi-generational home, what makes it different? Why isn't we look at those with nostalgia? Grandma and Grandpa was there. Grandma took care of the babies, and all that. Mom and Dad were working, doing the farm work or whatever. And the kids, when they got, of age, they'd go out, milk the cows or help around, do chores and all that stuff. And it just kind of kept rolling on that way. And then we had families that lived on an estate or whatever for hundreds of years. This has been in our family for 300 years or 200 years. What makes that any different than what we're seeing now? Is it a beginning of a new multi-generational home wave?
I think so. I've got a colleague of mine who is doing some research on this, and will come out with a book here shortly on the trend toward multi-generational living. And partly that's driven by economics today. I think historically, particularly in rural communities, that was very common.
Mm-hmm.
You stay on the farm, you keep working on the farm and that type of thing. Then when it became more industrial, there were jobs outside, and that made it easier to just live
Pull
outside.
people away.
Yeah, too. So
I understand what you're saying. I hear what you're saying. I know it's important.
Right. But now's not the
But
time.
not right. That's a story. So I get what you're saying. The problem with that situation that I see is they're not participating in helping with the home, such as taking the garbage out, such as mowing the yard, such as paying rent, things like that.
Sometimes.
I'm gonna guess that number is pretty high.
Yeah.
I'm gonna guess it's right up there.
yeah,
That our kids are just, and the technology is keeping them like brain dead to everything. Right? They're on their technology all the time.
Playing
Playing video games. I mean, we had our grandson living with us, right? Which was great. He spent 2 years with us. and he would come and have conversations with us, but honestly, he was up in that room
Right.
on the computer, let's face it, all of the time, whether it was work or games, or whatnot. It's getting them away from that technology and the video, and they're just getting lazy is what I see.
Hmm.
Is that accurate?
Well, I think it goes back again to the shift in the parenting style to be much more invested
Lax.
in happiness and success and doing things
Yes.
to maybe some cases compensate, or because we have money we can buy it.
Yes.
I didn't
Mhm.
get it as a kid, but I want
Yeah,
you
right.
to have it. Type of
There was
thing.
that.
So
So, what's the damage being done to the empty nesters relationship? Because one parent wants one to stay and the other parent doesn't want him to stay.
oh, well, that's a common problem. It's the good cop, bad cop problem. So, which is, I have a blog called Good Cop, Bad Idea.
Oh,
So basically, I think the parents have to find a way to work together, because typically one tends to be the firmer,
yep.
let them face the music, and
Right.
goes, well, they're somewhat depressed, or I don't think we were both worked so much, we were gone, so you get that combination, and the parents have to find a way to find the middle ground on that. They need to not find that in front of the kids. They need to have private conversations where they say, okay, how do we work together? How do we bring together love and backbone? This nurturance and firmness at the same time. So I think that's really important for to address that particular problem. So
I
And
see.
you're dealing with people with that.
oh, absolutely,
Yes.
sure.
Okay, so now I want to address a little dichotomy that I see. So we report that over 50% of young adults age 18 to 29 are still living at home.
How many?
50%.
50?
Over 50.
Yeah.
Over 50.
Okay.
Okay.
Now let me clarify that, Keith,
Okay.
because that was the Pew study done in 2020.
Oh,
Oh,
we are
so-
way out of it's
Yeah.
way
Oh,
higher.
yeah. Boy, it's 5 years later.
So that now I haven't seen one of late,
Recent.
but what I have seen, it's more in the 30%
Okay.
range
Okay.
right now than the 50%.
Okay, so some of that might have been a
Oh.
COVID impact.
Absolutely.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Oh.
whatever the number is,
Right.
it's a big number.
Yeah.
And historically large and growing.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have 1 in 4 young adults are estranged,
Mm-hmm.
becoming estranged from their parents.
Or 1
So,
in 4?
So on one hand, we see more kids
okay.
living at home for one reason or another. I don't care what the reason is.
Mm-hmm.
They're living at home, but yet we're seeing the increasing number of people becoming estranged. What is the cause? Because it seems like they're working against one another.
Yeah, and I always describe my mission as helping parents launch their kids in self-sufficient, responsible independence while maintaining a caring connection.
While
with the
maintaining
bond.
it.
So when they're estranged like that, that's really a heartbreaking situation for parents, where they've gone off the radar. They're not communicating anymore. That 1 in 4 means for some period of time, the young adult cuts off from the parents. Most of the time, they come back,
Come
but
back.
Circle
some
back.
just plain cut off for good.
I think it's a natural cycle for that cutoff to happen.
Yeah, I don't know. If
For
it's-
some time, as the young person starts to become independent, they get focused on their own life, their own activities, and all that stuff, and then there's a forgetfulness of, oh God, mom and dad are still over here, or grandma and grandpa, or whoever it is, and then once they begin to establish themselves in whatever ritual or whatever work situation or life pattern that they find themselves in, then they start looking around again at family.
Mhm.
And start reconnecting and rebuilding or continuing, I guess I would say,
Yeah.
growing relationships.
I'm speculating. I don't know this, but that some of that estrangement may be a message of, I want to show you I could do it on my own.
Uh-huh.
You've been taking care of me, telling me
Oh.
what to do, doing these things for me. It's time for me to say,
Too
I'm
bad
gonna-
there wasn't more of that.
I'm going to do it on my own. Okay, now I've shown that I can do it on my own. I can talk to you again. I can reconnect, and I don't know if that's true or not, but for me, it's one of the possible explanations for that. So, I mean, there's other things going on. There's a rift that occurred because of the too strict parenting, maybe religious differences, political differences. I'm not talking to you. You're in the wrong party.
Right.
So, some of that's played into this as well. But there you do have this combination of some that are stuck at home and some that are cut off too at the same time. And my mission is to try to help both of those situations, to help these kids that are stuck get launched, but continue to have a good relationship with their parents, and where the parents have this break, I'm trying to get that reconnection to take place again. Help the parents do what they can to reconnect with that estranged young adult too.
So how would you so I'm listening to the radio program now, and it's like, well, he's describing my life, my problem. So I can go to the website. I can go to parentslettinggo.com. Can they connect with you then through that site too, or how would they reach out? Are you giving workshops? Do you do one-on-one counseling? How does all that play out?
Oh, sure. Thanks for asking. So a good place to start is the book.
Read the book.
Yeah,
Get the
Parents
book
Letting
and read
Go.
it.
Unfortunately, I pasted Jack's copy across here, but Parents Launch Code. Loving and Letting Go of Your Young Adults. That's the book. That's one resource. ParentsLettingGo.com is another resource. People can contact me through that website.
Okay.
I do counseling throughout the state because I do virtual counseling. So I've talked to people in International Falls and Rochester and different places like that. So that's available. And I am available to do, speaking engagements. Right now I'm not. I'll probably do a webinar at some point, maybe this fall online. I've got about 500 parents that are part of my distribution list, so I kind of owe them a webinar update on some of the things that I've learned and all too. So there's some different ways that people could access me.
So if I'm a listener and I've got this problem, maybe you've helped me in the past, and I want to share. What you're saying is you would be available if I put together 50 people or 20 people, you would come and speak?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
And that might be a way to get a friend, who maybe is, what I'm saying? A friend who is experiencing the problem, say, hey, come on, listen to this guy talk, and kind of in a loving way.
Sure. I'm gonna try to do a little bit more of that. I don't want to do. I backed away from the evening workshops. I didn't want to do a lot of that, but certainly speaking to civic groups and sometimes church groups and stuff like that, I'm happy to do that if I can kind of work that out. So
when a football team or gets out of whack, they tend to go back to basics and just to get the fundamentals down. Let's do the fundamentals. What would be some of the fundamentals if I have a family that's in a problem here with the topic that we're discussing? What would be some of the fundamentals that they could implement right now that would help them begin?
All right. Well, then I go back to my practices, and that's what's on this kind of wheel on the cover of this, and say, first of all, express love in kind of word and deed, unconditional, no matter what. That secures the relationship. Then you want to strengthen the relationship, not by control and direction, but by supporting identity and independence. That's their task right now, to move toward identity and independence. And then resolve if there are things they need to apologize for that have happened in the past. Deal with that. Set limits. That's the fifth thing. And the sixth thing is be willing to let go and say goodbye. Those are the practices, and they're described in depth in here and what parents need to do. So
ParentsLettingGo.com. We'll see you next week.
But when he calls me sugar, I love that man with all my might. Sugar in the morning, sugar in the afternoon. Sugar after dinner, sugar in every room. he calls me that name, it does things to me. I tell him, honey,